So that's the story of that. We've begun to get an idea of how boundaries, rather than being seen as rigid closures, are variably permeable, variably fluid, and variably connected, interfacings. And when we put that all together, we can actually begin to understand how real sustainability is manifested in the natural world, in terms of the way living systems actually change the properties of their figural boundaries to relate directly to their energetic circumstances. So this is real sustainability in which natural figures naturally attune with the availability of energy, in their natural context. So under certain circumstances, we can get figures breaking apart. This happens in times of plenty. At times of plenty, or in places of plenty, we get figures essentially proliferating. And we can think, in this figure I call it differentiation, but essentially thinking about those things. But in times of shortage, and shortage arises because if a figure is feeding energy from outside to inside, it's depleting its outside, and if you carry on doing that, you've got lots more energy inside than outside, you're going to leak it all back out again if you're not very careful. So the way you relate to this situation is that there are three ways of condensing or integrating boundaries or minimizing that exposed surface between the inner world and the outer world. One way is simply to seal the boundaries. Another way, which makes them relatively impermeable, but you can't make them completely impermeable because you'd never be able to transfer energy again and you'd be stuck forever in a survival capsule. Another way is to so you can seal your boundaries. Another way is to actually allow some boundaries to degenerate, to actually break down again and release what they're contained to parts that are exploring again. So actually here we see some boundaries emerging out of degeneration. This is degenerating boundaries. So essentially, death is feeding life in that particular situation. And then the other thing that boundaries can do, apart from that, is that they can actually fuse with one another in the way that I've shown you. And when we get that fusion or anastomosis between figures, the figures become a true labyrinth, a true network of channels. Not a network of strings, which is how we've all been taught to think of networks in terms of webs and all that sort of thing, but in terms of a network of channels in which it is the internal space which is vital to the role of a true network as a communication system. If you don't do that, they don't work as communication systems. So the next one.
Yep.